Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. It is February the 22nd. Thank you for being here. To my new subscribers, thank you so much for all of the thumbs up, the comments, the shares, all of it. I really, really appreciate it. So thank you very, very much. Of course, my established subscribers, I adore you. Okay, so I'm recording this, let's see, it's about 10 o'clock my time here in Alberta on Monday. So the Supreme Court has just said that that Cy Vance is, and that grand jury is absolutely entitled to Trump's tax return. So, like, mic drop. That's awesome because that gets things moving along, and I'm sure that that Trump is probably a little wound up right now. And the thing is even his own appointments did not agree that he shouldn't have to comply with anything because he was the president and somehow above the law. So that didn't fly. So that's good. And not only that, but now there's like an actual legal precedent. So that's really, really good news. Merrick Garland is in the middle of his hearings. He's going to be confirmed. I saw that great big green check mark over his face. And those of you who have been watching me for a while know that that tends to be how I get my messages in terms of who's winning what. So let's take a look today. Tomorrow there is going to be a meeting that takes place between Trudeau and Biden. So I want to take a look at that. I want to sort of take a look at, cross-border relationships, how that's going to go. I mean, I know there's been sort of some consternation about the Keystone pipeline getting canceled. Here in Alberta, that's like a big deal. I don't personally think that that was a good idea to start that whole thing. I think that Alberta, because it's in some ways Alberta's sort of like Texas, right, with all the oil and the focus on it. But we need to deal with alternative, newer, cleaner ways of dealing with energy. And but I know that that's obviously one of the things that's going to come up and be talked about. So I want to take a look at that. Like, let's just see what's going on between literally Canada and the United States. So, come on down. I have a question. Create a little bit more space here. Okay, so Canada-U.S. relations, Canada-U.S. relations, Canada-U.S. relations. Okay, so in some ways, the last 4 years has really, I guess, brought to the forefront the relationship that goes on between those two countries. It has sort of illuminated it. And, people are starting to sort of recognize, if they hadn't before, all of the cross-border stuff that goes on back and forth, and in some ways how really dependent we are kind of on each other to varying degrees for varying, trade items, etc. But it's more than that. It is a feeling of camaraderie. It is a feeling of, I don't know, brother and sister, siblings, cousins, whatever it is. But there is a sense that the two countries, even though they are independent and they are different from each other, but they really in some ways are kind of like simpatico. And so because Trump created so much sort of division and stress, etc., that relationship became even more there was more clarity. There was like illumination in terms of exactly how kind of interdependent we are on each other, you know? And so in some ways that's a really good thing, right? Because you don't ever want to find yourself in a position where you're sort of taking for granted what really is a very remarkable relationship. And I am not unmindful of Mexico and the US relationship, but that's not what I'm talking about here, okay? So we're just going to focus on the two countries. So it caused stress, anxiety. There were financial ramifications for some of the stuff that was done. But the reality is that's now moving into a past position. And there is going to be an ongoing attempt to continue to sort of return to the normalcy of US Canadian relationships. And that is like really, really important because it strengthens both. Now, for right now, the borders remain closed because of COVID. And frankly, that's as it should be. And I don't know how many of you are aware, but Canada has really, really clamped down hard on people returning to Canada from outside of the country. I mean, there are mandatory isolation orders, like mandatory, like into a hotel, mandatory, not just go home and, you know, don't talk to your neighbors. And so, and you know, there's snowbirds up here who are dying to go south, and some of them foolishly have, and now they're trying to figure out exactly how they're supposed to get home and deal with the restrictions now they're going to find when they get here. But a lot of snowbirds ended up wintering here, and certainly even not snowbirds, but just people who routinely take, you know, Christmas vacations or winter break, spring break, whatever it is in the South. You know, we're missing that. But the reality is, it sort of is what it is, and we're all going to cope. Going forward, you are going to see an increased strengthening, if you will, of the relationship across borders. You're going to see negotiations that take place that really, really do benefit both sides, where there are gains to be made on both sides. The relationship, it's going to be a little bit tentative to start off with, but like this is the thing, right? Trudeau knows Biden. He would have known him from the Obama administration, and vice versa. And so there is already a sense that in some ways the two of them really are kind of on the same page. They are juggling what they need to juggle for the benefit of their countries, but the reality is they're not at loggerheads anymore in terms of ideology, in terms of, you know, kind of doing the right thing and getting the right thing done. So that is like really, really good news. The reality is that, you know, truly what affects Canada affects the United States and vice versa. So especially with the whole COVID thing going on, it's really, really important that there be real clarity between the countries and that everybody feels like they're working for a common good or a common goal. So that's really lovely to hear. Now, I do understand that tomorrow, when the president and the prime minister are meeting, there are also going to be sort of counterpart meetings also going on. So, you know, different departments or areas are connecting with their counterpart across the border. And so again, this is a return to some stability. It is a return to sort of normalization, if you will, of the relationship that these two countries have enjoyed for a very, very long time, a couple of 100 years by my reckoning. So that's like a really super, super good thing. There are going to be little baby steps, and I'm not quite sure what this is about, but it feels as if there's going to be some new deals or new trade agreements. There's going to be some stuff that starts to emerge, and it's not a done deal. It feels like these initial meetings are sort of the beginning of it, but there's definitely going to be some deals created that both countries can feel good about and both countries can benefit from. The Ten of Swords is really indicating that there is a strong desire, particularly on Biden's part, to remove the influences or the damage that were imposed and created by Trump. Now, of course, he also feels that way about, Australia and the UK, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there's definitely a sense that this is an important relationship and sort of it needs to be addressed first. And I do believe that this is Biden's first foreign, meeting with a foreign leader. And that's frankly as it should be. So I very much remember when Justin Trudeau was first elected, I do believe the first place they went was to, that first foreign leader meeting was with the United States. And so again, very, very good to see sort of that sense of normalcy returning. It really does feel like you're going to be able to create forward movement in several different areas. And this is the thing, right? I understand that like Biden is doing the Buy American First thing. And that's, doesn't thrill us because, but we certainly understand it. But it definitely feels like there's going to be some real benefits coming forward as things unfold between the two countries. And I definitely see where Joe and Justin, well, that's kind of snappy, eh? Joe and Justin are going to get along really, really well. And so that's really, really lovely to see. Yeah, I don't know, man. There's like some joint ventures going on. I don't know whether this has to do with, in some ways I'm thinking it has to do with more base trade things, right? You can ship this much of this into our country and vice versa, that kind of thing. But I'm also thinking that it feels as if there might be some other areas where there could be some joint arrangements made to go forward. And it sounds as if, it looks and feels as if they really are going to be very well received. They're very good ideas. And so you can look forward to a closer, tighter relationship. Well, each country very definitely retains their own autonomy. And that, again, that is a good thing because from a Canadian perspective, we don't want to be put in a position where the United States is capable of really, really creating damage to our own country's stability, financial and otherwise. The other side of it is that this very much looks like they're going to be able to figure out ways to go forward where there is just simply a better balance. I have to tell you, everybody in the government, honestly, they're so grateful that things are kind of going back to something that is normal, that is familiar, that is productive, as opposed to a continual attack, a continual sort of taunting. And so they're delighted to see that that end is there. It has happened. And now both countries can sort of move forward with each other. This is like really honestly like a kind of a good news reading here. I'm not seeing anything that particularly concerns me. It feels as if the strength of the relationship is going to continue to recover and go forward. And yes, frankly, there's going to be a little bit of loss on both sides in terms of things that countries have lost. Whether it's things that there's not going to be as much trade. I'm not sure what it is, but there's definitely going to be some things that change. But there's also going to be new opportunities going forward. Yeah, yeah, it's a good thing. It really is a good thing. It's delightful for not only Canadians, but I think most other countries to see the diversity that is taking place in the Biden government. Whether it is, females, people of minority, whatever it is, there feels just like there is a better balance, that things are more representative. And of course, Canada, in their own way, and we're far from perfect, but that has been sort of more the norm for us, particularly in liberal politics. You have pockets of conservative politics that honestly, they should go play in the sandbox with your Republicans, because they're all those sort of dinosaurs that I like to talk about. But the diversity is a really good, powerful thing, and it sets up really important messages and dialogues about going forward. Yeah, it definitely looks like there's going to be a real strong relationship. And so that's exciting. That's good news. I'm not getting anything, honestly, that I'm concerned or worried about. In fact, it looks really, kind of like just smooth sailing going forward. It feels as if the governments are going to be able to recalibrate and find, their place, find where they can work together, work independently, whatever it is. So that's like really, really good news. So you can anticipate good reports coming out of that meeting tomorrow, not only again from the leaders of the countries, but from the lower down, counterparts in terms of kind of getting things back on track. So that's kind of exciting. Okay, now I'm going to also take a look. I don't think, just energetically, it feels as if a lot of the confirmations are going to go through relatively unscathed. I think that for the most part, there's not going to be too much of a problem with them. There could well be a problem sort of when it comes to judges, because, the conservatives, the Republicans, are going to be very determined to not lose that grip they have on the courts. But don't even worry about that, because there's going to be some changes that take place and go on with that. And there's going to be a rebalancing of the court system. So for right now, I guess there isn't a seat, certainly in the Supreme Court, that needs to immediately be filled. And so that is going to, frankly, unfold and take care of itself. But that imbalance is not going to be allowed to stand when it comes to the Supreme Court. Let's take a quick peek at the Supreme Court, in fact. Let's just see what's going on there. I was more than delighted. I did a little tap dance, actually, when I heard that absolutely there was not a good reason that the grand jury should be blocked at all from getting Trump's financial documents. And of course, that creates, fraud, right? It is like tax fraud, it is like insurance fraud. And those are serious things, right? It's not going to go well. I imagine the Trumps are a little spooked. That would be the word I would use, spooked. So let's take a quick look at the Supreme Court, and I think I very well then may take a look at what's going on behind closed doors in the Trump family. Oh, that was the other thing. I heard yesterday, I think it was, that the investigations that are going on with regards to January 6th they are branching out and they are looking at other people who were involved, although maybe not as out there, so people weren't aware how involved they might have been. But apparently these investigations, never mind, going after Giuliani, et cetera, that of course is in place. But I did hear that a couple other people that they're looking at, one is Alex Jones, that crazy person who thinks that, Sandy Hook was a farce or joke, a lie. What a crazy man. And then, of course, when he got sued for that, I'm not sure what the whole story was there, but it was like he said, well, that was just my sort of persona. That's like my media persona. That's who I pretend to be. I don't really believe it. Like, what an ass. And Roger Stone. He's another one that's going to be investigated with regards to the January 6th riots. Let's take a look at the Supreme Court, shall we? Come on down. U.S. Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court. Perfect. Okay. So there really is going to be that kind of rebalancing, looking at things in a new way. There's going to definitely be an investigation, and they're definitely going to be investigating not only a way to balance out the Supreme Court, because when you really get down to it, from the way I understand it, energetically, it feels as if the Supreme Court really does do best when both sides are equal except for one vote. So either it's a 4-5 or it is, I don't know, a 3-4 or, whatever a 6-5, whatever the breakdown is. Because when it gets lopsided, then it really does become partisan. And again, there is a feeling not only in the Biden administration, but literally within people on the Supreme Court. I mean, sure, there's a couple of those people who are real, like, stick in the muds, Alito and Clarence, whatever his name is, Thomas Clarence, maybe. Or Clarence Thomas. You know who I'm talking about. The guy whose wife was at the Trump rally. So, they're kind of what they are, but I actually don't think they're going to be around within the Supreme Court much longer. And that in and of itself could be the way to sort of rebalance things. And of course, they have Kamala Harris, and so she is going to be able to, tip the vote in their favor if it comes to that. But there's definitely a need for, there's almost like a feeling like the court has really, when RBG passed, it felt as if it really unsettled the people within the Supreme Court itself. It's feeling sort of like an anchor was lifted or something. It just doesn't feel like that area is stabilized anymore. And frankly, for the people for the judges, they want that sense of decorum and respect and balance. They also are very aware of sort of the damage that was done to the Supreme Court by the antics that went on over the last 4 years. And even before that, I mean, it goes back beyond that for sure. And certainly, when McConnell refused to even hold hearings for Merrick Garland, that was sort of the beginning of the disaster. And I'm not, obviously it went on before that, but that was really where the foundation really started to shake. So there really is a sense that the court itself really needs to get back onto firm footing. It needs to regain its respectability. its autonomy. And, you know, that it feels like that's going to happen, certainly. And I'm hearing the word Citizens United, Citizens United. So it feels as if that may very well be something that also gets looked at and addressed, right? I mean, you've got the Magician and you've got Justice coming up here. So clearly there is going to be work done to get things back into a place where that court can actually start regaining some of its, I guess, cross the board respect. And I'm not sure, I kept Citizens United, but it definitely sounds like there's going to be something that goes on there in terms of bringing some balance to that situation, because I think I don't know, maybe whatever its intention was when it first started, I don't know, I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to that at the time, but it definitely feels as if there is almost like the worst of what it could become has manifested. And so it very much feels like there is that sense that there needs to be some course correction there. So that's going to be interesting. All right, quick look at Trump. I want to see how they're reacting to the news that, oh, guess what? You're not above the law. Oh, guess what? All of those documents, all the financial documents that you did not want disclosed, guess what? They're going to come out. Now, the thing is, they're going to the grand jury. It is not like MSNBC is going to have, you know, a special next Tuesday called, you know, Trump's taxes, right? But they're going to, frankly, go where they need to go. And that is to the grand juries. And then from there, we will watch as things unfold. Because at some point, if there are charges, then there's document filings. And at that point, that's when the information is going to start coming out, assuming it doesn't leak before then. So quick look at the Trump family. Because, you know, they're all in it up to their eyeballs. One more quick one. There's judgment. Alrighty. Trump financial documents. Trump financial documents. Trump financial documents. Well, wowzers, it kind of sucks to be the Trumps right now. So they're in trouble. Okay, that's just the bottom line. They're in trouble. They're not really going to have a solid way to protect themselves. They're not really going to have a strong way of fighting what's going on. They have lost. They have no more legal avenues left to block or to hope to block. So they are not going to be able to, frankly, get away with a whole lot, especially when it comes to their financial transactions. And that includes, for some reason, this is looking like Ivanka to me. So it feels almost like maybe whatever negotiating or deals or whatever else that went on, she also is going to, looks like she's going to be specifically in some kind of trouble. So that's going to be interesting because, of course, if they find all these irregularities in the Trump books, then they're going to find them in hers. And I know there was something about one of the Trump companies paying one of Ivanka companies, if it's a consultant, except whatever. So there's trouble coming. They are justifiably worried. They are anxious. There is some almost like realization or recognition that the free ride is over. They're not going to be able to wiggle and maneuver the way they have for the last 4 years. And, you know, again, it's up to the Congress, I guess, if they're going to make rules about, you know, people running for elections to disclose their tax information. That's frankly on them. They need to get that done. But as for the Trumps, they're actually really scared about what's going to come out. And this is the thing. I mean, I know that they talk about the fact that, you know, Trump really micromanaged all of his companies. And clearly, if you watch his behavior as in the presidency, he absolutely did that. He couldn't keep his fingers out of anything. But I'm not exactly so sure, in fact, I'm almost positive, that Trump actually didn't have the brain power or the focus to really be able to understand how certain things were accomplished. Because as we have seen from his behavior, he likes to micromanage everything, but not because he wants to actually do the work. He just likes to tell people what he wants and that he just wants them to get it done. And so there is stuff that went on that Trump may have said, get it done, I want, and it was done. But when it comes right down to it, he had no actual understanding of what needed to be done or what took place in order to create the result he wanted. And so in some ways, there's a lot of anxiety because it really does feel, and this honestly, it feels like it applies to the family. In some cases, they really don't have clarity about exactly how far outside of the law they skated. It's not like they're oblivious. They have knowledge, but it feels as if when it gets down into the weeds and the real details, it feels like they really, really don't understand. And so there is definitely, the harder they try to hang on to things, the worse they made it for themselves. And now they have no recourse. And there's Lady Justice. There she is. And so what you're going to get is illumination. Things that were held in secret, things that were behind smoke screens are going to start being released. They're going to come out. And it's going to really rock the stability of the family itself. And I don't know. Is that a bad thing? Really? Probably not. Okay. So there we have it. I'm going to do my level best to try to keep the videos coming out regularly, but you're all aware with all the things that are in my plate right now. And so I will do my best, but if you don't see me for a couple of days, you know why. I'm kind of coping with my own life. And I once again really encourage you to make sure that you are subscribed. And I really encourage you to hit the notification bell so that when my videos do come out, you get notified so you don't miss anything along the way. All right, so for those in the United States who are cold, please, please, please stay warm. The positive energy circle yesterday was about the weather. It was about supporting, comforting, etc. So if you haven't had an opportunity to look at that, you might want to. And until next time, take care, be well, and we'll see you really soon. Bye-bye.